We're on to question 2. This is a question that says, basically, my daughter tends to be overly dramatic or emotional. How do I biblically train her and not dismiss her feelings?
Yeah, that's a. I had a daughter too, and she had a tendency to be emotional. That's something that kind of comes with the territory, especially when you're dealing with teenagers and preteens. They got a lot of stuff going on in their life, and some of those have to do with hormones, and so I always kept that in mind when I was dealing with my kids, my boy too. It's not something that's confined to girls, and so there are times when a conversation gets highly emotional, and I'm looking at him and just going, "What in the world is going on? Why are you so into this?" And I can have a tendency to think it's just silly. There have been times when I've been listening to one of my kids, and it's hard to listen to, in the sense that I have to concentrate because they're just going on and on and on and on. And I want to be loving to them, and I want to be somebody that they can talk to. And this is something, especially with my daughter, she's way more vocal than my son is, and so the conversation can go on. And there have been times when I've just been going, Jesus, make me a better father, because I'm tuning out here. That may be part of just being a guy. And so the first thing I would say to that is, I agree with you. You don't want to just dismiss her feelings, and you don't want to, just tune her out and that kind of thing. So I pay attention to that. And that's how the Lord does things. He pays attention to us. Can you imagine how silly the Lord thinks that we are? So I'd
rather not.
Yeah. Just think back on your prayers and all the things that have been important to you over your life, that, with a 5-year time span that you look back on and went, oh my goodness, that was like, not a big deal.
Yes.
And so, again, I keep that in mind. God's always been somebody who takes care of me that way. Basically, anytime that I've been talking with my kids, what I want to do is I want to ground them in reality. And so there's a passage in Romans 12:3 that says this: I say through the grace given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. And so I'm supposed to have a correct view of myself. I'm supposed to have a correct view of myself in relation to the world, it's I kind of joke around with this stuff, but when somebody comes up to me and says everybody hates me, I just go, dude, everybody doesn't know you, or not everybody knows you, and so not everybody can hate you. And so we just get these perspectives that are out of line with reality. And so what I try to do with my kids is I'll listen to them, and then I'll try to ground them in reality. Bring them back to what the truth is about the situation. And that's not just my kids. That's anybody that I'm counseling. There are times when they think that what is going on in their life is just huge and earth shaking, and in reality it's something that pretty much everybody goes through. That whole thing where I'm the only one who's ever gone through this, and nobody understands me, and nobody can understand my feelings, and God doesn't agree with that. There's a passage in 1 Corinthians 10:13 that says, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you're able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it. And so the first part of that is really encouraging to me, because there have been times in my life where I thought, the stuff that I'm going through, the things that I'm dealing with, I'm the only guy that's ever dealt with this stuff. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow.
I'm sorry about the singing.
And again, it's just not true. And so, what I try to do with my kids is I try to ground them in reality. And then after I've listened to them, depending on which kid I'm talking to, if I'm talking to my daughter's a woman, And so a lot of times, she's not interested necessarily in answers. She's interested in compassion. She just wants to know I'm compassionate towards her. That doesn't mean I don't give her answers. I'm a dad. That's what I do. But and if she goes, Dad, I don't really want an answer. I go, you know what? You need an answer to this. You need to know how to deal with this thing. But with my daughter, a lot of times it's just a compassionate ear that she wants. With my son, he wants answers,
Right.
and so he wants to know how to live life. And in either case, what I'm dealing with is somebody who doesn't know how to live life. They're kids, and so they don't know how to how to necessarily deal with the situations that come up around school, and with people talking about them. The whole high school drama type of thing. Like you mentioned, they don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to handle gossip, and so I'll talk to them about that. Where there's no wood, the fire goes out. It's out of Proverbs 26.
Yeah.
And the idea of not being involved in all that nonsense, and just living a godly life, not having to go around defending yourself all the time, and just some basics on how to live and how to live life. So understanding the truth about yourself, speaking the truth, living in the truth, that's a big thing to pay attention to when dealing with drama. So
I had 2 daughters, and so in my house there was 3 females, and there was 1 me. and in that process, learning to appreciate that my wife, my 2 daughters, had more feelings than I had, and because of that, I had to not be as abrupt in how I'm handling them, but I am training them, particularly my daughters, not necessarily my wife. She's training me. But as I'm training my daughters, actually there's a verse out of Proverbs 29:11. It says, "A fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back." And so I'm encouraging my daughters that your feelings are absolutely things that God provided for you, but you have to learn how to hold them back and make sure you're using them wisely and not just venting them all.
Right, using your feelings in a reasonable manner is the idea behind that.